this is MJ, and today I'll be showing you how to make our pumpkin spice headband and keychains. This pattern comes with our pumpkin spice headbands, and you can find these kits in my shop. So from one ball of Sugarbush Bold, you can make the headband and a sweet little pumpkin keychain. So in your kit, I include your stuffing, your cinnamon stick, and it is scented with pumpkin pie spice, or you can choose to have cinnamon or also just unscented if the scent would bother you. And it also includes your keychain. So we'll be using Sugarbush Yarns Bold. It is a 100% extra fine superwash merino. It's so soft. It has a nice stretch to it. Perfect for making these headbands. Now we'll be using a 5.5mm crochet hook, or the hook you need to meet the gauge for this pattern. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to make a slip knot and put that on your hook, and make sure you just leave a decent tail. We'll be using that at the end for some of our seaming, so just make sure you have a tail available for that. Now we'll work a total of 15 chains. Once you have your 15 chains, we'll work in the second chain from the hook. So there's the first, there's your second, and we're working single crochet stitches. And make sure to keep these stitches really loose as you work across. This will save you some grief when we begin to work that center single crochet stitch. Okay, so now we'll turn, and we're not going to chain. The chain just adds an extra bump that I don't want to have on the edge of my band, so we're just going straight into the stitch. If you've worked center single crochet stitches before, you know we're working down through the post here of the stitch rather than up through the stitch that we would normally go through. So you can see these inverted sort of V shape right here. That's what we're working into. Now we're going to add 2 in the first because we're going to increase this row. So there's our 2. And you can see you're always going down in between the stitch. And this is why you need to keep those stitches loose so that you're able to work into them. So I'll work this across and meet you up at the end. Okay, so now when we get to the end, we don't have a post there to work into, so we need to add our 2 single crochets in that final stitch there. So now you should be going from 14 to 16 stitches. We'll turn, and again, we're not chaining 1. We need to find the first post. And if you've gone too tight, you can see it's really small. If you need to go back and rework a stitch, sometimes you might need to do that. So we're not going to do any increases this row, so we'll just work across our 16. Make sure you count so you don't lose a stitch. Okay, so I'm at 15, and we need to add the last stitch here so that we have 16 stitches, and then turn. Now this time we're going to increase. So that first stitch will work 2. So now we're going from 16 to 18. We'll add 2 at the end again. Continuing with our center single crochet stitch throughout this pattern. Okay, so I'm getting to the end, and in that final stitch we need to add 2 to finish off the increase. Turn, we won't chain 1, and then we just work 1 in every stitch across. And again, just remember to count your stitches so that we're not missing any. So what we're doing is we're increasing the band to 20 stitches. And that should give you about a 5.25 inch width, which is a really thick width for an ear warmer. Keep calling it a headband, but it's really an ear warmer. Okay, so we're going to want to increase again so that we get up to that 20 stitch mark. So there's 2 in the first, and work across with 2 in the last, and then you should be up to the 20 stitches that we need. So at this point now, we're just going to work, we won't chain 1 at the end, at the beginning of any row. We're just working 1 center single crochet, so just working, and we want to continue working in rows until you have approximately 18 inches. And at that point, we'll do the decreases so that we end also with 14 stitches, like how we began. So it takes a little bit of time to work through all of these rows. So I'm going to work mine off camera, and then when I have my 18 inches, I'll meet you up. Okay, so I've worked up my headband, and it's about 18 inches. So now we're going to begin our decreases. So we'll go through our first stitch, pull up a loop, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Now we'll just work across until we have our 2 stitches remaining, and I'll meet you up when we get across. Okay, so I've worked across to the end. So we're going through the center of that single crochet, and then we're just going into the last stitch and pull that through. And now we'll turn, and for this row we'll just work 1 center single crochet in every stitch across, so you should have a total of 18 stitches. Okay, and now I've turned, and we're still not chaining 1, and we're going to do another decrease. So we'll work in the first, pull up a loop, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, and again we'll work all the way across, and then we will finish with another decrease. So at the end here, we're going through and then just going into that last stitch and pulling through and turn. And now we should be down to 16 stitches, and we'll just work 1 center single crochet in every stitch across. Okay, and now we're to our final decrease. So we're just working it again the same way we've been doing it. We're going through the first stitch, pulling up a loop, going into the next stitch, pulling up a loop, and pull through. And just keep working that all the way across. And then we'll decrease that final 2 stitches. Okay, so I've decreased my final 2. We're turning, and now for this row, we'll just be adding 1 center single crochet into every stitch across. And if you give this a measure now, you should be at about the 19.5 inch mark. So now what I'm going to do is fasten off with a long tail. Put your tail on your needle. Now I'm just going to fold the headband in half, matching up my ends. We're going to go through each stitch, seaming this together. And I want you to pull it sort of as you go, so those pull in. If you just keep doing that sort of as we go, it makes it a little bit easier than trying to do it at the end. So this is just gathering the ends here as much as we can. Pull that in. So now you just want to weave back in the opposite direction to secure this. As I weave, I'm still just kind of cinching that in a bit and then going back again in the opposite direction. So now that I'm back on the other side, I'm just going to knot my ends and then just weave them. Just to hide those up now. Okay, and now I just kind of like to sort of mold that with my fingers, just sort of how I want. Them to fold. I kind of like having the 3, and then that cinches nicely. And now to finish off our headband and give it a finished look, I just like to add a personalized garment tag. These tags are from Brick Bubble. So you can go to brickbubble.ca and she designed my logo, and if you have a logo, she can use that to design tags. So now to put this on, you just want to go up, go through your piece, going up through that first hole, leave yourself a tail for the end. Go through the center hole, poking onto the other side. Go up through this hole, go down the next hole, poking up on the other side. And you can go through this hole, go back down through the center, popping up through the center on this side. And then you grab your final hole here, put your yarn up. Then you can just knot that to the starting tail and then just weave those ends to hide them. And that's a really quick, simple way to seam that on. And I have about this much yarn left, which would make you at least 2 little pumpkins. You could also use the leftover yarn to make a pom-pom and attach it to the key ring. So to get started, we'll be using a 5.5mm crochet hook, and I'm using Sugarbush Yarns Bold, and this is a worsted weight 100% merino wool. So we're going to make a magic circle and wrap that around your index finger 3 times. Take your hook, sliding it through all 3 loops. Grab the first loop and pull it through and chain 1. Now loosely crochet 10 single crochet in the ring. It's really important that these stitches are loose to make it easy to work into them. Okay, so now once you've crocheted 10 single crochet, you're going to move your work out of the way, take your tail and start to pull it. You'll see that one loop's gone in and not the other loop. So take the loop that's pulled in, grab it, pulling, and it will pull in the other loop. Now just take your tail and pull that in. Now slip stitch in your first single crochet to join. And chain 1. And now we're working center single crochets. So if you look at your stitch, here's your first stitch, your second stitch. In between those stitches, you're going to see this V. We're going to work down into that V right through. So work 2. I want you working 2 center single crochets through that V. So now if you look at your next 2 stitches, pull them apart a bit, you're going to see that V again. So take your hook, pushing it right down through, and work 2 center single crochets. We're going to repeat that all the way around, so we're increasing from 10 to 20 stitches. So I've worked around and I've double checked that I have 20 stitches, and now you're going to slip stitch in the first single crochet to join and chain 1. And now we're just going to work the same, our center single crochets, pull those stitches apart, find that V, and keep your stitches loose throughout, and that'll help you to work down into that V stitch. That V in the post. Once you get going, it does get easier. The first few rounds is a little tricky, getting it in the right place. Keeping your stitches loose is really going to help, and keep track of your stitch count as you go around. You want to stay at 20 stitches now and throughout these rounds. Okay, so once you're around, you're slip stitching again and chaining 1, and now just continue to work center single crochets in every stitch around, and I want a total of 10 rounds. So we've done 1, 2, 3, so work until you have 10, staying at 20 stitches throughout, and then I'll meet you up when I have my 10 rows completed. Okay, so I now have 10 rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're going to do some decreases here now. So I'm going to work 1 in the first, 1 in the next, and then to do our decrease, we're going to go through the next stitch, pulling up a loop, go in the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then pull through all 3 loops. And we're just repeating that around. So go 1, 2, and then together the 3rd and 4th. And repeat that all the way around. Now we should be ending with our decrease. We'll slip stitch to join, and then we're going to fasten off. Make sure you leave a long tail. So that's leaving us with only 15 stitches, and now what you want to do is take your stuffing, and if you're doing this on your own, not purchasing a kit, you just want to let all that stuffing absorb the smell of your spice. We might not need it all. Okay, so you want to take your yarn needle, put that on the hook. You want to take your cinnamon stick, put it down into the center. You want to take your key ring and put the yarn through. And then we're just going to go through the front loops only of every stitch around. And this is going to pull in the top of the pumpkin. So just working through the front loops. I like to get as many on here as I can just to speed things up. Okay, so see how easily that just pulls together. Now we want to weave this. You need to go back in the opposite direction. I'm going to work all the way around to get back over to my join. So now just go down through all of your join line stitches. And then we're going to push the hook or our needle up through, back up through the top, and then we'll pull this, and that's going to start to indent around the sides. And now we're skipping over 4 sections of stitches here. So here's the join line where it's tugging in, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So the next place we'll go down is here. And you just want to hide the yarn through those stitches there. And you just want to go back down, pop back up again, and then we're skipping over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here we go through, hide the yarn down through that next section. And we're just repeating this now all the way around the pumpkin. Pulling it to indent. So once it's evenly done all the way around, make sure our stick's in the right, and we'll just trim the stick down so it's not so big. You just want to weave your ends to now secure this. So weave one way, and then weave back in the opposite direction just to make sure that that's all secured. You can just fiddle that with your fingers to just kind of give it a real little pumpkin shape. Trim this, and I'm going to trim down. I just cut it down about to that size. It's a little messy, but so there we have it, our little pumpkin keychain for our keychains, and they have a really nice pumpkin pie spice smell. So I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.